Hey everybody, this is Kenny with another edition of the Yak with Mac. One hit wonders. The landscape is littered with them throughout all of music history. That Thing You Do was a great movie that shows what happens to one hit wonders. How can we prevent you from being a one hit wonder? Listen in. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. This is another edition of the Yak with Mac riding solo today, but I got something to drop on you this morning. Hope everybody is having a terrific week. Just a couple of quick reminders that I haven't said much over the last couple of weeks. Leaders, what are you doing every day that helps you develop yourself? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more today as we're going to talk about as we start to wind down, believe it or not, we're starting to wind down 2021. Whenever we get into the fourth quarter, my brain starts to really work on how I can get better going forward into 2022. So I'm going to inspire you to do the same thing. But we're going to talk about one hit wonders this morning and hopefully that will also inspire you as well as bring back some memories. Leader Ready, or whatever leadership class, there's so many things out there. Leader Ready is specific more for the selling channels, but there are so many other great leadership courses that you could take out there that would be relevant to whatever you do, whatever you are, wherever you are in leadership. Okay, this is the place we want you to come to. There's a lot of other different places to come to as well, but we want to inspire and encourage you to become outstanding influencers. Not the type of influencer that puts stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with that, but I mean the influencer that influences your people that you never ever ever have to tell them what to do because your influence and your presence is there every single day. Okay, one hit wonders. So, and this is a side joke, you've probably heard me say this before, but I just also wonder if the person who coined the expression one hit wonders ever coined another expression. But that's a story for another day. One hit wonders we really associate with musicians, groups, artists that had one, maybe two hits and then disappeared. Never heard from them again. And if you're like me, I spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but I spend some time really studying one hit wonders and looking them up and seeing what happened. And some of the backstories are really amazing. But I often also wonder this, and I'm going to tie this into you as well in just a bit. But I often wonder what is the difference between someone that has a ton of talent, equal talent to someone else, and why one person rises and the other person doesn't. It puzzles me. Now, I know in a business like music or sports, uh, acting, entertainment, it could just be you're in the right place at the right time. That can happen sometimes. But I also think that nothing takes the place of a great work ethic. The the one that I think about often, and this is you're way too young to remember this, but I often think about the differences between Michael Jackson and Foster Silvers. So most of you probably never heard of Foster Silvers, but he was a young star back in the 70s. He made one or two really big hits, and he was enormously talented. He was part of the Silvers family and he could dance, he could sing. He was the same age as Michael Jackson, sort of almost the same type. But Michael Jackson was so dedicated to his craft, and Foster Silvers wasn't. And as he got more into his teens, he enjoyed the perks of being a pop star, but he didn't put in the work. Therefore, he had really only one big hit, a song called Misdemeanor, and then he kind of disappeared. And that's kind of sad. And he wound up in some trouble and stuff like that in his 20s. And so the story's kind of sad, but that to me is always a comparison about hard work, dedication, and always reinventing yourself, which is what I'm going to get to today. I also admire artists that have a lot of longevity that made hits like in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and on, and that sell out concerts even today. And some folks that come to mind are U2, Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Prince while he was still alive. Eh, How do they do that? How do you have that longevity in a business where sometimes you have two or three albums and then you don't hear much from the artist anymore? Rod Stewart is another one that comes to mind. Lionel Richie. We could go on. And even more recently, Lady Gaga, Justin Timberlake, folks like that that have kind of transcended themselves. Justin Timberlake from the boy band pop group then to being just this great solo artist. So if you haven't, I'm going to make a movie recommendation for you. If you haven't seen a movie from 1996 called The Wonders, I'm sorry, the name of the group was The Wonders. The name of the movie was That Thing You Do. And Tom Hanks wasn't the star of it, but he was the producer, but he played a big role in it. He was the manager. So That Thing You Do was about a band called The Wonders that had one huge hit song. The hit song was called That Thing You Do, and it was set in the 60s, 1964. And it clearly showed why they were just a one hit wonder. There were so many different things that happened to them. There were, and one part I really actually liked because one of the band members leaves because he wants to write his own music. He doesn't want to get these pop songs and everything like that. But they weren't dedicated to reinventing themselves. Their manager, Tom Hanks, puts them in a movie. He tries to have them do different things, different shows, and things like that. And they're just not dedicated to it. And therefore, they have one song that gets all the way up to number 7 on the pop charts back then. And that was it. They never had another hit song. And you kind of see at the end of the movie what happened to them. It's a great movie, very entertaining. And it really goes to show what kind of happens behind the scenes of some things that may happen, which I suspect happen to a lot of one hit wonders. So, why am I saying this? Anyone can have a really good month, anyone can have a really good year. But in this business, the business that we're in, and as a leader, you've got to constantly change and constantly reinvent yourself so that you can prevent yourself from being a one hit wonder. Because I hate to say this, as I look back over my soon to be 24-year career, I could think of people that had a lot of success for a short period of time, and I wonder what happened to them. And I kind of saw things unfold at times, sometimes up close, sometimes a little bit from afar. And I was very blessed and privileged to at one time really be familiar with the whole Northeast area. So I knew managers up in Boston, upstate New York, down in DC, down in Philly. And so I was able to get involved in their careers and I could kind of see them, going a little bit off the rails. And then I'm like, hey, what happened? In my next trip to Philly, what happened to this person? They're not with the company anymore. Well, what happened? Yeah, they quit. They just couldn't do it or something else happened. And so I'm like, man, that's a shame because I think they did have the talent. Because I think that if you do have success for a year, that doesn't happen by accident. And I think sometimes if you figure it out and you have success for a month or 2 months, I also don't think that happens by accident. I think that you did specific things that really harvested that success and that you can repeat it. So as you now get into the fourth quarter, you're going to be crazy busy, no matter if you're in sales or not, or in care. You're still going to be really busy. This is a busy quarter. We're crazy busy in training. One of the things that you shouldn't delay is your plan for 2022. Start it now. How do you prevent yourself from being a one hit wonder? So I'm going to give you a few specifics here. One, how can you be stretched? Think about that. How can you stretch yourself? If you think you're busy now, maybe add just a little bit more onto your plate and do something within your organization that is different, that fills a need and a niche, and think about how that can stretch you and think about some things you might can learn from that and start to build your brand even more. So, how can you be stretched? Second thing is take on something totally different. Look at other job openings within T-Mobile that are things that you've kind of never done before, right? But they might pique your interest a little bit. I would encourage you to go out and take the career assessment. It's out on T Nation. If you just look at the career site, there's a career assessment that starts to really bring into view, into picture for you, some things that might surprise you that you might be interested in. You might look at job openings and say, man, I would never want to do that, but you just never know. Some of the things that I've done throughout my 24-year career, I never ever thought that I would do. I remember starting out as a store manager, and I thought my career was just going to be right there in retail. And I got the opportunity to do so many different things. And I have to tell you, a lot of them took me way out of my comfort zone, but I'm I was a better leader because of it. So speaking of that, my third one is get out of that comfort zone. Whatever you feel your comfort zone is in, and when you think about those first two things I said, right? How can you be stretched? Well, how can you do something different? Make sure that those things are way outside of your comfort zone. And I mean to the point where you're feeling uncomfortable even sitting down for the interview for it. That is how you are going to grow my leaders out there. I guarantee it. Here are just two more quick things that you could do that you could write down as you go into 2022. Can't believe I'm saying 2022. One is take some sort of course. You don't have to go back to school if you want to. That's great. We have EdAssist. We have a great program that pays for that. And a leader told me this recently. She said, Kenny, I don't leave any money on the table. Company's giving me money to go back to school. I'm spending it. I think that's great advice. That's great advice. But here's the other thing. Within Percipio, there are a lot of courses that you can get kind of little certifications here and there, but courses that will really help you stretch. I had one person on my team yesterday say they're really going to jump in and take an Excel course because they didn't think they could ever do reporting that we're doing for the team. And that person now, while they were really uncomfortable doing it, now they're like getting ready to put together Excel, Excel sheets with pivot tables and things like that. And I'm like, have at it, because I hate doing that stuff. But it stretches you. It really does. It stretches you out, gets you outside that comfort zone. And there's courses you could take for just that out on Percipio. So I would say look at a course or two to take, start to map it out. Maybe you take one a quarter, or maybe you just say, I'm going to commit to doing these two for the year, whatever it is, but do something that's going to help you develop. Okay, this one is my last one. So I had these five, and then I'm going to take you back down memory lane as we talk about one hit wonders. And this one is find a mentor. Find someone that you could talk to that maybe is doing a job now that you'd like to have in the future. So if you are, let's say in retail, I'll just use as an example, and you want to be a district manager or you want to be a DDM, have conversations now with folks that are already doing that job and are already successful at it. You would be surprised that if you pick up the phone and call, how much people will share. If you pass COVID now, if you go out and you can meet someone for a cup of coffee or something like that, do that. Do that. They will share with you. People will share their successes and share their journey. Notice the interviews that I do on this podcast, people openly share, and they share sometimes things that are a lot deeper than I thought that they would share, but it is to help others. And I think that we work for a company. I don't think, let me take that back. I know we work for a company where we have people that are so committed to helping others. So those are just five things. I could probably think of a lot more. You could probably think of a lot more. The important part is that you start to put together that 2022 plan so that you prevent yourself from being a one-hit wonder. Taio Cruz, remember him? Had two like big hits and then disappeared. What happened to him? What happened to Walk the Moon? Shut up and dance with me. That's one of my all-time favorite songs. Never really heard from them again. All right. How about the folks that made the Harlem Shake? Do you remember these two dances, the Harlem Shake and then the Doogie? Remember that? What happened to those groups? I have no idea. No idea. How about the American Authors? I remember that song being so catchy. This is going to be the best day of my life. Remember that song? These songs aren't from that long ago, but why did these groups make other hits? It's just shocking to me. If you go into the 90s, what happened to House of Pain? Jump around, jump around. Remember them? Semisonic, Closing Time. Remember that song? That's played still like in every club or something like that. Not that I've been out clubs lately, but that's played like even at parties. I was at a wedding recently, and that was played as the last song, Closing Time. That means get out. It just means go. Marcy Playground, remember them? Hadaway, I Want to Be Rich. Remember that song in the 90s? How about Lou Bega? Mambo number 5. What happened to these folks? One-hit wonders. Well, again, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw in that industry, but also if you look up some of the backstories, people like the perks, but they didn't put in the work. Does that almost rhyme? That might almost rhyme. The perk and the work. So you might like the perks of being a leader, but you've got to put in the work to make sure that you are always reinventing yourself, especially in our industry, because our industry is off the chain. It changes daily. Let me say that one last time. It changes daily. Okay, this was a lot of fun today. Hopefully, you got something out of it. How do you prevent yourself from being a one hit wonder? Watch that movie, That Thing You Do, 1996. It's actually a movie that's appropriate for kids as well. It's rated PG, I think, at the time, or PG-13. Certainly, nothing really inappropriate in that movie at all. I think you'll enjoy it. But for now, this is Kenny. This has been the Yak with Mac. We will talk to you real soon.